Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
All righty. So we're going to hear from Viv today, which I love to hear her speak. She's going to be doing speech 9, although it's her speech 5. So if that makes sense to you, it's a persuasive speech. Viv Milne is the owner of 221 by Viv, boutique wedding and event design company that specializes in full-service event production. Viv loves helping her clients create an unforgettable experience for their guests. She's a member of the Association of Bridal Consultants and has been blissfully married to her husband, Shane, for almost 3 years. Please welcome her. Yeah. Oh, and it's entitled...
It's all in the details.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
Thank you, Julie, for that wonderful introduction, which I wrote.
How did you come up?
I want you to write your evaluation too.
And gave her notes for the evaluation.
Yeah. Love you.
Love you too.
Okay.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, and actually no guests. So I'm sorry, I'm totally out of it. Let me start over. Take a deep breath. Yep. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Vivian.
Thank you. 187. That's the number of tasks that The Knot, one of the most widely visited wedding websites, assigns to a newly engaged bride when she signs up for their website for the first time, creates her account, makes her password, and goes into their wedding planning section. 187 tasks spread over typically 12 months. Now for some brides, or soon-to-be brides, that's exciting. For others, it's daunting and terrifying. And for most, it's probably a mixture of both. There's a lot of excitement. You've called your girlfriends. You said, oh my gosh, I'm engaged. You've gone through your story multiple times. And now it comes down to, how the heck do I pull this entire thing together? For most of us, we've probably been to many, if not dozens of weddings in our lifetimes. Some have probably been great and memorable. Some have probably been memorable for not so good reasons. And a lot of them were probably forgettable. So what makes the difference between a great wedding that you remember and one that the next day you're like, oh yeah, that was cool? Anyone? Susie, is there any, can you think of some weddings that you've been to that have been
my daughter,
awesome?
because I planned it. But
okay. Because you had that personal connection with her and you connected with the couple probably.
Well, and also we had a fabulous DJ that kind of emceed the wedding perfectly. So it makes so much sense to have a wedding planner. I mean, oh my goodness. Without him, I've seen catastrophe.
Well, for me, I know that all the weddings that I've remembered have been for a couple of reasons. One, either the connection that I was able to feel with the bride and groom due to a lot of the personal touches that were included in the wedding that made me think, oh my gosh, that is so them. And two, weddings where I felt very catered to as a guest, where I was taken care of. Those were always the ones that stuck out in my mind. So to me, ultimately, an incredible wedding comes down to two things: personalization and orchestration of the entire experience. Personalization. Nowadays, there's so many different wedding magazines, there's online wedding sites, there are venues that specifically specialize in doing weddings now. Hotel weddings are very popular. And for a lot of those couples, when they walk into a hotel, they sit down with usually the catering manager, and they're shown a list of options. Do you want white linens, or do you want our cream linens? Do you want the silver chargers, or do you want the gold chargers? And what happens is they're shown a laundry list of stuff that they choose A, B, sometimes they get option C or D. But a lot of times these couples don't realize there's so much more that you can do. You don't have to choose what is presented to you. When I went to plan my own wedding 2 years ago, I was a little bit disappointed because I felt like I was being put on a conveyor belt of options, that I didn't have a lot of ways to personalize my wedding. And you guys all know I love fashion, so I think that a wedding should speak as much about you as your clothing does. And it should be a true reflection of the couple, of the bride and the groom, of the mixing of their two styles, their personalities, their personal aesthetic, so that you can actually present an experience to your guests that is truly about you and your husband, and not just about the options that the hotel or the reception had on hand for you. So personalization is key. Again, it's all in the details. It's all in the little things that showcase who you are. If you are a huge sports fan, you might want to put some of that sports stuff in there. I have a couple I'm working on right now, where Becca and Dave, who are huge movie buffs. So we're going to do a few fun things, and we're going to incorporate this movie theme in a few places in their wedding. It's not going to be a movie-themed wedding, but for example, for the escort card table, instead of doing the traditional tinted name cards, we're planning on setting up the table numbers on little movie passes, where guests will come and they'll have their name, and then instead of the table number, it's actually going to have the name of a movie theater that they've gone to. So again, it's all in the details. And speaking to Rebecca and Dave, when I mentioned that to them, they said, oh my gosh, our friends will totally get it, because everyone knows that they love movies. Orchestration. Diane, you are the Toastmaster this week, so that's not an easy job, right? And as we all know, with Toastmasters meetings, Diane's job was to contact the members who had a duty to fulfill and make sure that they were going to be here, and sometimes that's difficult. In fact, I didn't email her back, so, and I didn't do that just to make a point for my speech either. Her job was to make sure that all of the different players were going to be here to fulfill their roles. And as we have all experienced as Toastmasters, or even as just members of the Toastmasters group, sometimes people either show up late or they don't show up at all, and the Toastmaster's job then is to come in and find a replacement, make the necessary adjustments to the agenda, and make sure that the show still goes on. Orchestras don't play without a conductor. Plays don't go on without a director. And it's no different for a wedding. This is the timeline for a wedding that I did on Saturday. It's 4 pages long, and it starts at 9 a.m. and ends at 12:15. I'm going to pass that around so you guys can take a look at it. In the interest of saving paper, I didn't want to make a copy for everybody because I have like over 100 pages. But as you can see, weddings are very, very involved. There's a whole motley crew of characters that are involved in it. You've got families, you've got the bride and the groom, you've got the bridesmaids, the groomsmen, the best man, the maid of honor, and that's just the people that are standing up at the front of the church. Then behind the scenes you have the DJ, the lighting, the florist, the photographer, the videographer. You've got all these different personalities that are working together who all have one final goal, and that's to create a beautiful day for you. But without having a director or somebody that is handling the entire event to make sure that things go according to timeline, there are multiple opportunities where things can go awry. You may have heard the saying, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, and in the wedding industry, it's certainly no different. As a wedding designer, I get to play many different roles. Obviously, the designing and the planning of the wedding, helping the couple choose their vendors, choose their location. But I also get to play some really fun roles. I get to be a food critic when I go on food and cake tastings. That's always fun. I make sure to try to do it on a cheat day. I get to be a coach, a best friend, a therapist to the bride. You know, weddings are incredibly emotional roller coasters for people. And I get to really indulge myself in a lot of my favorite passions. When I got married, I always said I want to have 10 or 12 different weddings because there's so many different things that I want to do. And now, being a wedding designer, I get to fulfill those vicariously through my brides and grooms. Thank you very much. Sorry, that's our way around.
Everybody take a few minutes and fill out your evaluation and pass it forward.
I know this.
You recovered well.
Lots of great information being shared and great speeches this morning. Excellent communicators.